Right, council, make sure your mics are on and the phones are off, and for you in the audience as well, please silence your cell phones. We're going to get started now. It's time to start our meeting, so I will go ahead and gavel it. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the City Council of Universal City, Texas. It is Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. I'll call the meeting to now to order at 6:30 p.m. and call for quorum check, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Buck.
Here.
Councilmember Bulman. Here. Councilmember Fitzpatrick. Here. Councilmember Najarian.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Here. Quorum is present, we shall proceed. The invocation this evening will be given by Councilmember Buck, and I'll lead us in the pledges, so would you all please stand.
Heavenly Father, we stand before you tonight in unprecedented times. You sent your Son to us, born of the Virgin Mary. He lived his life and died to honor you as a Jew. As we all know, the Last Supper was a celebration of the Jewish holiday of Passover. Before he was murdered the next day and adorned with a crown, mocking him as the King of the Jews. Now, just 10 short days ago, unholy terrorists brought, unprovoked, the worst massacre of the Jewish people since the Holocaust to the state of Israel, and killed innocent Jews while they celebrated the holiday of Simchat Torah. They did not deserve this, and anyone who defends the actions of Hamas is either ignorant or they are not your children. Please assume the former. Speaking of children, beheading the Israeli young, then raping and kidnapping their mothers as hostages is not honorable and must be called out as immoral at every opportunity. Anyone who claims to act in your name while committing these atrocities deserves the just punishment that shall be brought upon them by the Israeli Defense Forces. As you have so many times in the past, I ask that you watch over them as they exact your well-deserved justice to vanquish this unholy foe. Please protect the innocent captives of Hamas and bring them home safely as soon as possible. Moving back to Universal City, where our business pales in comparison to those struggles, be that as it may, we humbly ask for your wisdom as we undertake the business of our great city. Keep our residents, families, and first responders safe as they go about their business every single day. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you for your invitation, Mr. Buck.
Thank you
very much. Okay, welcome everybody to our only meeting of October. We didn't have one earlier in the month, obviously because of National Night Out. And so I'm glad that we have some of the members of our audience here this evening, and we appreciate you coming. So the first item we have on the agenda this evening is our consent agenda. It's number tab A. There are actually 6 items on that. And all matters listed on this item are, as you can see, considered routine by council and acted by motion. No separate discussion. If discussion is desired, that item can be pulled and discussed separately after the consent item is taken care of. So, does anyone want to pull in?
Move to approve.
Second. Councilmember Najarian, second by Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby. Any discussion further, anyone? All right, let's call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman. Aye. Councilmember Fitzpatrick. Aye. Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, then those motion passes. For the audience, most of these were second readings of items that we had discussed at our previous council meeting in September. So there were no changes on that. So that's why the consent agenda I think was very appropriate. Okay, next item we have is citizens to be heard. It's a time to address council on issues of concerns, informative, obviously. We will not do a council discussion while this is going on and no action is taken, but we do appreciate everyone's participation this evening. And we have one individual that has signed up this evening, and that is Mr. Bernie Rubal. Mr. Rubal?
Honorable Mayor, council members, city staff, and the great public.
We'll get to that later.
Basically, I again asked council to review exactly what the city manager meant when she stated in public. Operationally, over the last 4 years, the golf course has been able to sustain itself, but people have to remember that it has debt. And that is what the Olympic Hills has not been able to cover. I looked again at the published budget data for the 4 years that were identified, in fact, went 5 years. And if I look at the statement of revenue and expenses for the authorized budgets, I find that that is not a correct statement. In fact, it is not correct from the standpoint not only of the numbers that are presented here, but also the numbers that they don't include, which include the 300 plus, or whatever it is the city manager decides on city overhead expenses, nor does it include the interfund transfers, which, for example, prior councils had approved golf court purchases to the tune of $300,000+ in 2 years in a row. So it doesn't include those things. And I've also asked council's indulgence to seek a return of the $80,000 a year for the commercial signage back to the general fund that has been transferred into the golf course fund. Another concern regarding the golf course is when we look at funding the golf course, I hope the council is wise enough to include the fact that the golf course, a significant portion of it is in floodplain, and that our tax money should not be considered a substitute for floodplain insurance. It was a site that is prone to this. Therefore, it's a site chosen that has to make income to accommodate for the site that was chosen as part of the bottom line. I present to council and the great company the pages from the audit that demonstrate that there does not seem to a simple resident, there doesn't seem to be a case where the golf course has actually paid for itself in the 4-year period. Next, just a little bit of an update on the sewer line issue. Basically, there's no work order to date on the sewer line. It just collapsed in March 2022.
Did you wrap it up, Mr.?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, finish up that point.
Okay,
No,
10 seconds.
The road is having contact on you, so
I'm sorry.
You're good. Just finish up this particular item. Go ahead.
I thank council for their indulgence and you know, I think a lot of the residents just looking for exactly what was meant by the golf course essentially being able to take care of itself, and the numbers just don't show that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rubel. All right. Would anyone else like to address council that didn't have a sign? Please, sir. You can give us your name and address for the record, too.
Billy Hill, address 923 Phoenix, and as y'all seek the input of residents, I want to give you a little bit in the last couple of years, from the many decades that I've just kind of sucked off of all y'all's input. I've been out and I've been to a lot of community events, and I want to compliment the city, the council, and the residents for all that I've seen in the last couple of years, and last one being the pumpkin patch. And I see people at these different events, many of them, and I see tens of thousands of dollars of volunteer work and many other donations, and I see the product of that as I'm also in the Police Association Academy, as we've done things for the fire department, for the police department, for parks, and for many other entities. And I just humbly want to apologize for the last decade. I haven't participated, but compliment y'all and the support that y'all give everybody and the residents in this. I just, it's new for me to get out. Traveled in many other areas, but not in Universal City, and I'm sure I've been appreciated lately. So thanks to all of y'all, thanks to the residents, thanks to the participants, and I pray that that continues forward. That's it, Mayor.
Good, thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else? All right, let's press on then. We're going to be going into no tab number 1 here in a second, which is an executive session. And it's pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551-071-1 regarding consultation with attorneys to seek legal advice in connection with pending litigation. Cause number 2021 CI 8486, Robert Stroud et al. Versus City of Universal City. So we're going to go into executive session, and we'll get back as soon as we can. Thank you very much. So that is now going to executive session at 6:40. We're not sure how long this is going to be, so I'm not going to warn you, but you never can tell when we go into executive session how long it's going to take.
I should probably bring my.
I don't know, but I can bring you a bottle after. I got the. Thank you.
Yeah, that's,
I meant to ask you about that. You sent me an email a while ago, but I was just thinking, probably Najarian wants some volunteer time. And people.
Everybody back? Let's go.
Give me a second so I
Oh, okay.
can unmute everyone.
Okay. Let's reconvene now. It is 7:53. Reconvene from executive session. And we'll move on to no tab number 2. We're reconvening, and we may or may not take action based on item pertaining to or listed in that executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that from the findings of the executive session, make a motion that we authorize our legal counsel to negotiate on behalf of the city in mediation and bring results to a future city council meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Councilmember Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? All right, call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. We'll move on to tab number 2 under business, which is discuss and to consider Resolution 960-2023. It's a resolution of the City of Universal City, Texas, outlining a policy for the investment of public funds.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The investment policy basically indicates how we're going to invest our money. Primarily, ours is in taxable, as most of you know, also at Texas Bank, now called American Bank. We are required annually to reapprove this investment policy. There are no changes from last year. And I should require, one of the requirements is that we have to have the Public Finance Investment Act training, and we are up to date on that as well.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second. Councilmember Vaughan, second by Councilmember Najarian. Discussion further? All right, call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. We'll move on to tab number C, discuss and to consider Resolution 961-2023. It's a resolution amending the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget for the City of Universal City, Texas.
Thank you, Mayor. This was an item that we had discussed during our budget cycle. Remember, the golf course has paid back the interfund loan in the amount of $1.9 million and some change. The question came up what we wanted to do with that. The guidance from City Council was that we needed to put it in a line item for capital purchases, specifically in this case, the fire trucks. And so the question was asked, when will we see that budget amendment for 2024 happening? And this is it.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion while I'm eating a piece of peanut butter. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby, second by Councilmember Buck. Discussion, Mr. Vaughn.
So I asked if Christine would be ready to talk about where our fund balance is, because we've adopted a policy of 12 months, and I would be concerned this would take it below. I'd also like to mention that we have 2 or 3 things that we're gonna have to pay for here in the near term, and one of them is the property purchase we approved at a previous meeting. We have this $4 million for Kitty Hawk that's gonna come up very soon, that we're gonna need to find money somewhere. And then we're also working on some kind of low water crossing in Orchard Park. So I would be curious to see where Ms. Green thinks that we're at.
Well, our fund balance currently, if we take what was in the audit as of fiscal year '22 and the assigned portion that was in there, it's approximately $16 million. So currently with that, and then with the surplus that we should have had from this fiscal year, it's going to be approximately $17 million. So
Which would be how much in terms of months?
in terms of, it would be 12 months. If we take our current budget and we remove the items that are not necessities, well, that can be moved to a future time, then we would be right at about 15 million.
So if we take this 2 million out, what would happen to the fund?
Well, we're not taking it out. I think that's a misunderstanding. It's actually going to be a fund of the general fund. So per gap, it can be used in the general, it can be allocated to a separate fund, but still be a sub-fund of the general fund. So it's not being moved from general fund monies, it's just sort of being put out of place or out of sight, out of mind, in a sense. But push come to shove, because it's self-imposed by the city, it can always be used as fund balance money for the general fund.
Okay, do we have any ideas on how we're gonna pay for the other things that we've talked about?
With the,
Well, the Kitty Hawk Road improvements, the 4 million.
So the Kitty Hawk Road improvements were already, I'm assuming you're talking about the ETJ.
The 4.7, no, for, in front of Walmart.
Yeah, we've been having that discussion. Obviously, we've had some discussion on that in executive session, and we are still negotiating with several of them. And I know that the EDC has talked to their bond council to see what their bonding capacity is. So we're running 3 separate tracks on that one to figure out the appropriate way to build all of the road infrastructure improvements that we have coming up in the next couple of years.
And is there any need to do this now, or can we wait until we have a more finite number from our audit report? I mean, is there a difference between doing it now or doing it 6 months from now?
it would make a difference to me either way. I was just following council's request. And the thing is too, we don't even have to do a budget amendment and move it to that fund. We could list it as assigned under the general fund if council chooses to do so. Either way, the money is still general fund money. But if it's council's desire to have it under the general fund, I would suggest that we place it as assigned. Even though it's self-imposed, at least we know then that money has been reserved for something. I don't want in the future for anyone to say, we didn't follow through with what we said we were going to do. And that's all.
Sure. What we said we were going to do is buy fire trucks in 3 years.
Exactly.
And there's I would point out that it's a lot easier to get financing for fire trucks than it is to get for roundabouts and street improvements in front of Walmart. So we have, which is going to come up first. So I think even if we do this, I think we're going to have to maybe reconsider it in a few months when we try to figure out how we're going to pay for some of these items. So just something out there. I'm
Okay. Mr. Patrick. Okay. Yes. Bulman?
Yeah, I guess like the feedback I kind of got was just to be safe was just wait until the audit's done and then move the money once we're 100% sure, since we're going off numbers. Safety first, caution, I guess, is all I think we're asking for. But
Well, again, we're not moving the money out of the general fund. It's a sub-fund of the general fund. It is still general fund money. If it were to be audited, it would still be considered assigned general fund money. And because it is self-imposed by the city, it can be used at any time for general fund purposes. Yes. It's not allocated strictly to the fire truck. It's just, we did say that's what we were going to do. So to follow through and just ensure that the citizens that we're doing what we said we were going to do, the money is being placed in a situation where the goal would be to use it for fire trucks.
it's not locked into that. So it's not technically what the citizens asked for. Like, they wanted to make sure that money was like locked in and couldn't be used for anything else. So I thought, I'm just saying, maybe just caution is that's all I'm saying.
Right, but on the same time, the caution was, well, if, as the discussion was that we were going to use that for the fire truck, how are we going to identify it for future councils and or staff, that money was set there for the intention of for a fire truck, and, you know, they should consider that. So if we don't do that and notate it, then they're not going to know what we discussed, or they may see what we've discussed because it's on video now, but they're going to say, well, they didn't do it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they can't do it in the future, but it also doesn't mean that you or a future council can't undo it, because it's in the general fund. I always say it's like taking this $20 that you have in this pocket and taking it out and putting in your $20 in this pocket. That's what you're doing. You're just switching your $20 from one pocket to another pocket, but it's still your $20. And if you want, you can take it back and put it back in the pocket, or you can spend it on any time that you want.
I would hope that that would only happen if it was a necessity, though, because the goal is to try to use it for what we intended. But it really, to Councilmember Vaughan's question, it doesn't matter if it's done now, if it's done tomorrow, if it's done in 3 months. I'm just trying to follow through with what council requested.
And I do appreciate the fact that that's exactly what you're doing, is following through with our suggestions. And I love that part about it. It's not being moved anywhere, but I do like the idea that you've got here of labeling it, so we know why it's there, and we do follow through with that, and let the citizens know that we're following through with that as well. So I really do like that suggestion.
Okay, Mr.
Just
West?
one final comment. So if we're gonna follow through on what we say we do, then we should follow through on the fund balance policy, which says we're gonna have 12 months of unassigned fund balance, which we would be below that if it's assigned for fire trucks, or if it's moved to the sub fund or whatever. So that's all there.
Well, sir, if it's assigned, and again, if it's self-imposed assigned, per gap, it's considered unassigned fund balance.
What?
I have it in writing. It is.
So you're saying there's no distinction assigned, there's no point to assigned, that's not a thing?
If it is
It's just straight up?
assigned, but again, if it's self-imposed unassigned, if there's no other requirements for that money, then it is considered unrestricted or unassigned funds.
Unrestricted, yes, but not unassigned, which is what our policy would like us to have. So
Does it say unassigned or does it say
it
unrestricted?
says unassigned.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Buck?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to make sure I understand this because I'm not the numbers guy. Making a comparison to like a home budget. This is like we are adding additional fidelity to our planned budget. So instead of just saying per month I'm going to spend $500 on groceries, I'm putting subcategories in there and saying I'm going to spend $100 on produce and $100 on meat and $100 on pastries or bread or something like that, because this is our budget and we're just adding a subcategory into our budget so that it's earmarked for us to use on the fire trucks in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's a sub-fund to the general fund.
Okay, good. And to Councilmember Vaughan's question, what plans do we have for the purchase of those items that he mentioned? Whether it be the low water crossing across Cibolo Creek, the purchase of the roundabout area near Walmart, et cetera.
So the road to the ETJ was already in a line item already in your budget. So that's already been accounted for. We started it in prior budget and finishing it up in this budget. That was already in there. The other property purchase that we have coming up, she had given us the line item for that last time in some funds that were
assigned, but I can't find in any council meeting, at least in the past 5 years, that show what it was assigned for or how it was assigned. The only thing I can think is a similar situation to this, that it was a self-imposed assignment that the money can't be used for anything but capital. It still meets the requirement because it's a capital project. So, but I can't determine where it was even identified as that, so. But it is there and it is available. Now, that could very well affect our fund balance a bit, but you do your fund balance typically on a monthly to a quarterly basis to kind of see where you're at. And I don't think that at any point we'll dip below the fund balance too far, not to meet the requirement of the 12 months.
I do have a bit of a concern to Councilmember Vaughan's point about our city council policy of being to maintain the unassigned balance of 12 months of operating reserves, and how we are interpreting that, because if we do have that in our policy and it says that it must, that we will strive to, we shall maintain an unassigned fund balance of 12 months of operating reserves, if this is going to be a violation or a bending, perfectly legally defensible, I'm loving that term from a couple months ago. Perfectly legally defensible is different than this is what our policy says and this was the spirit of the intent. So,
remember, a policy is not a law.
Understand?
It's a guidance to the council and to the staff on where you want to be.
So if the six of us plus the mayor have said that that is our goal and that is our guidance for ourselves, and if this will in fact take us below 12 months of assigned, of having unassigned balances or 12 months of operating revenue, then I think there is some merit to Councilmember Vaughan's point.
Right, but here we are, today is October 16th, so we're 16 days into the budget, right? So if we're gonna look at this on a quarterly basis, we really need to let some time pass so that we understand better sales tax revenue, expenses, and all of those things. It's kind of really hard on day 16 of a policy being in place, worrying about whether you're gonna need it or not. Now, he has valid points, right? We know we have expenditures coming up. But it is incumbent upon us to monitor that, and we think if it's going to be an issue as we monitor it, we're certainly going to bring it back to council and say, here's where we are, here's some recommendations that we think need to happen in order to get us back to our 12 months for this quarter, and then we can examine it again in the next quarter and the next quarter.
And we've not started receiving our property tax revenue because people haven't started paying their
We
property
haven't
tax
gotten our
revenue.
bills yet. No, we haven't gotten our bills. The only thing that we have right now is just the monthly sales tax coming in, but then we haven't even started receiving sales tax yet.
Well, the sales tax actually, yeah, it will be accrued back to last fiscal year because it's last fiscal year's revenue. So we won't see any sales tax revenue for this fiscal year until December.
And it might be to the point that maybe when we bring, this is just a recommendation, y'all can tell me what you think. Maybe when the auditor comes back with their report, at that time, we come back with a fund balance report too. That way you have the two documents to compare it to. I know in the last couple of years, we've been really late in our audit, but that will not be the case this year. We will have it back to you fairly quickly.
My goal is March.
Yeah, and so then that would be appropriate time for us to bring the fund balance policy to back using those two documents.
Well, we can bring the fund balance policy on a quarterly basis. My goal is actually to come to you on a monthly basis instead of quarterly because I think it gives a better picture and is more transparent as far as where we're at financially. But that probably won't happen until sometime early next year when I can get everything together for this audit. Again, we don't have to approve this budget amendment right now. It's simply because we were asked to do it. We're trying to follow through for council and be sure that it's here. But if there's apprehension, we can wait. Just know that staff is trying to do what they've been asked to do.
Yes, ma'am, I agree that we did ask to do that. But I also agree that if we have set up the guidelines for this body to maintain a 12-month fund balance of unassigned fund balance with 12 months of operating reserve, then I think if allocating this money to this budget line item would do both of those things. It would accomplish what council asked you to do in making that specific assignment, but it would take us below our 12-month unassigned operating revenue, then I think it would be best for us to wait, because if we're asking you to do one thing, but it's gonna violate our self-imposed policy over here, then I think we shouldn't do it.
And I may have failed to read the policy 100% then, because I honestly believed that it said unrestricted. But if it says unassigned, then we may want to wait a couple months just to kind of see where we're at financially.
But then again, if you make the decision, you get some better moving it from this pocket to this pocket and then back to your pocket again.
Yeah, it's still this, either way, it's still general fund money. It's just a question of the wording, whether or not it's unrestricted or unassigned.
Yes, ma'am, I
And that's
agree.
the question.
I agree, but it is a policy that we put up there
Exactly.
for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Madam President?
Thank you, sir. So we have a motion and a second. At this point, how do we go ahead and delay for a couple of months until we see more numbers come through and all that
So
stuff?
whoever has made the motion obviously holds the floor. And so that person can amend their motion, or they can withdraw their motion, and whoever seconded it can do the same.
If I withdraw my motion, does it then just disappear into the ether and never to come back, or does it,
No.
can it come back in the
No.
future?
That's not true. You can withdraw it and give direction to your staff that you would like it to come back.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to withdraw my motion and hope that to see this thing come back in the future.
I withdraw my second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So we have no motion on the floor now.
That's correct, so we're moving on. That's where you hit the gavel and move on to the next
We
item.
shall move on to tab number D. Okay, and that is an ARPA update.
Thank you. Give me a second so I can pull up my file here. You know, one of the items that we had talked about was the ARPA, and we typically bring that back to you for an update on each October. We did that last October. And I hope in the cover sheet that we gave you sufficient historical background of what's happened and what we need from you and where we are in the use of the ARPA funds. So at this point, it's just kind of an update. If you have any specific questions, we can answer those for you, and then we can move on.
Pretty much what this update is things that we've already gone through and approved. But for make sure everybody, since we have a couple of new members, make sure that they're aware of exactly what we did with those ARPA funds. Yes,
Yeah, and obviously, under a couple of those categories, there was a really long list. And the generators in particular, I mean, there's 16 of them, something crazy number, and same with the camera. So we just condensed those, otherwise the agenda packet would have been way too long. So we can discuss those in detail if need be.
Well, let me go ahead and entertain a motion, and then we'll open up for questions.
I don't think
there is a
this needs a
Oh, no, this
motion.
is just an update, so there's
This is
nothing.
not a
So we-
formally
yeah, so
adopted
Council, if
budget.
you have any comments about it, you can. Ms. Bulman?
I just have one real quick question. Just, do you know off the top of your head how much was left in the ARPA fund, like after that? And it might have been in the packet, so I apologize if someone asked it, so.
Oh, no. Okay, so what happens is we had 5.2 million and we expended 2.3, so that leaves us with 2.9 million that is unexpended. But it's accounted for.
How many we got, how much money we got from the government, like for?
5.2 million.
Okay, thank you, that's it.
Yes, Mr. Buck?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It says that all funds must be obligated by 31 December 2024. I see that there are several projects that have not yet been started. Do we have plans
So they're
for?
obligated.
But they're obligated, okay, so they
Yes.
are obligated because we have the plans and they're gonna move forward, and we have plans in place to have these projects completed then by the deadline of 2026.
Right, so what we'll do, you know, the closer you get to the crunch line, the more reporting back that we are obviously need to be doing in the discussion and guidance from council. So as you noted, we have a couple of critical dates that we need to hit. And as we continue to get closer to those, if we have projects that went away or projects that we think need to be switched out, or there's something that happens along the way, like guess what, the rules changed, right? When we first started on this, you could not do economic development projects. There was a big push between the first tranche and the second tranche that you could do economic development projects. And so, you know, council may decide at some point, well, if we have this funding, then let's just take it from here and move it to there. But again, we'll bring all that back to council.
Yes, ma'am. Has to be obligated by the 31st of December. In your letter to us, you say you want to update council again in October 2024. That's only 3 months before the deadline. Could I ask potentially for an update as part of the budget workshop, maybe June, maybe May, June, something like that, so that we can look at the current status of our ARPA fund obligations?
We'll do it before we start the budget work
Yes, ma'am.
session, that way we know where we are in our standing. Is that all right with our finance
Well,
director?
we could plan to do something maybe in March, because we're going to hopefully start our budget process before April this year in order to get everything,
So
to have more meetings.
we can do it in March with the understanding that, we have elections in May, and so we may have to revisit this and there is a new council member that we may have to revisit this to give them time to get caught up to date as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I just don't want to wait until the last minute
Sure.
before, if there are any changes. And lastly, Mr. Mayor, thank you to the staff and everybody who has put all this together and has executed all these plans. And I do recognize that you have a good plan for getting this put together, so thank you for doing it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It's amazing what we were able to do with that funding that we could have not afforded. So it's really, really fantastic for us. Okay. Any other discussion, anybody? All right, let's move on to tab E then, which is utility bad debt write-off for fiscal year 2023.
Another perfunctory item, getting ready for the auditors, obviously. So they always like us to start with a clean slate. So, we come to you every October with debt that is, usually 4 months old at least, and ask you to write that off. So I put in the cover sheet, which again, I hope was beneficial to you, kind of what the amount was and how it all operates. So a couple of questions that some of you have asked, and it's a very good question. I apologize for not putting in there. How much can we legally ask for a deposit on utility accounts? So we are capped to asking for a deposit of $50 for water and $50 for sewer. That's what we can legally set as a deposit. Now you say that's strange because you said, it's $135. It's a $15 processing fee. And when this deposit amount was set, that's about what the garbage rate was. Now, if we wanted to increase the deposit, we could make it to cover $126, and then it would cover 1 month of garbage plus the 2 allowed water sewer fees that we could charge. But that's it. That's as high as you can go at this point. So somebody, I think, was actually asking me the question, well, what happened? I mean, where did these people go? Did they just disappear? And in some cases they did. So they're either deceased. A lot of them have been maybe moved into a facility of some sort, whether it's aged or disabled, or they've moved away in with a different family, and there is no thought for leaving a forwarding address or anything of that nature. Or we have some that are actually in bankruptcy, which of course we can't do much about that. In particular, we're going to address that on the next item. In particular, we know that the largest bill that we have in this particular one, which is close to $2,000, it is a commercial business, but they are in the midst of bankruptcy. So, we're just on the bankruptcy list like everybody else. So we do have our, not a collection firm, but we do have the law firm that does the skip tracing for us, that in a lot of these cases, they will find out the forwarding address and send it out to them. And so we are in the moving forward process with that, but remember, we went back 5 years, so we're dealing with those and then moving forward. So some of them may still get paid. And then what we also have in this $17,566.71 is when somebody's bill gets cut and they owe us money, we charge an interest rate, so that's included in there. And then we also charge a reconnect fee, which is $50. And so those get rolled into there well. So there may be just a lot of fees that we've assessed within this $17,000. Do you know the amount of fees?
No, I apologize. There was no way for us to really check. There's 118, there was 118 accounts, thank you. So 60 of those were over 50, I'm sorry, 60 of those, or 50% were over $100. The cutoff amounts ranged from 1 cutoff to 12 cutoffs for one customer. Unfortunately, with the skip trace, we cannot collect the fee added for the $50 reconnect. We can collect late fees. We can try to collect the actual cost of the usage. And again, of those 60 persons, 11 of them terminated and gave us a forwarding address but still haven't paid. 37 of them left with no notice. 10 of them were disconnected for non-payment, and 2 of those were deceased. And then of the 118, 13 of them, or 11%, were under $15. So what's really causing the issue is the $2,000 for the one, and then the 60 accounts that are over 100. Unfortunately, this is kind of is what it is. It's like this at every city. And in reality, what's being written off is considerably less than any other city I've worked with. So, and even though we're writing it off, we still have the ability to get it skip traced. If the money's collected, then we take it off the bad debt, we post the revenue to the city, and then they're removed from the list. And I looked historically, and this is actually one of the lowest debt write-offs the city of Universal Cities ever had.
Okay, so what we need is a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
Mayor Pro Tem, the motion, second by Councilmember Najarian. Discussion further, anybody? Okay, call for the vote then, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Very good. And our numbers are pretty small compared to a lot of other cities. That's true. Okay, tab F, discuss and to consider resolution 959, 2023, resolution of the City Council of Universal City to join text-buy cooperative purchasing program for goods and services, and through the adoption of this resolution, authorizing the city to enter into an interlocal agreement with Region 16 Education Service Center and setting an effective date.
So I've seen this cover sheet a bazillion times, and I just realized it has the wrong dollar amount in there. I apologize, it says 55,000, it's 550,000, but what's a zero amongst friends? Because it is in the 2024 budget. So yes, obviously a very aged roof system, which we'll get to the next one, but in order to get the pricing that we have, we need to join this cooperative purchasing program, and I hope you all see the benefit of that.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Bulman.
Second.
Second by Goolsby. Any discussion, anyone? All right, call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Bulman. Aye. Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
That motion passes as well. We'll move on now to tab number G, discuss and to consider bid acceptance for the City Hall / Police Department roof replacement.
All right, so cover sheet, obviously, this is a very aged building, a lot of layers of roof on there, you know, water follows whatever path it can, and who knows where it's coming from. So the proposals that we received were the 3 bids that were required, and it's to remove the old layer, put in a 30-year warranty roof that wraps over the parapets so that there's no seams anywhere on the roof. Even to go down and catch the media room, which is lower than the rest of the building by about 4 or 5 feet. Same with the portico over at the police department, it's down and lower. And at the same time, raise up the air conditioning units so that there is no way for the water to seep in on those penetrations. The other item that Councilmember Goolsby had asked about was some noise attenuation for this unit that's over here, because when it's like this in here and it goes off, it is very loud. Thankfully, Joe with Trimco is here with us this evening and had the opportunity to hear it a couple of times while we were in executive session. So maybe go ahead and explain that process and those options. Should we be able to fit that within our budget?
Yeah, so when you're looking at the units, there's 2 common items for scope of work-wise to lessen the noise. The cheaper option is essentially a rubber mat, so that'll be between the unit and obviously the roof deck system, so that'll help lessen noise. Then the other option, it looks like 2 springs, and so that's going to lessen the vibration. So we'll have those 2 options together with obviously the chosen roofer with LPK roofing, show you guys what that would be. And those will help the noise significantly. That's the first time I've heard of it.
Mr.
I saw him jump and it went off a second ago, and that's why I was trying to, I was like, I think he.
It is pretty new.
So you'll see that we have budgeted 550,000. I see now when I get down to another page, it's actually the right amount. It's, the base bid is a 522,000, and then we left some wiggle room in there because once we tear off the roof, we don't know what the decking looks like. It's probably in pretty good shape because it's got so many darn layers on it, but I can bet in some pulled corners, it's gonna have to be changed. So depending on what that comes to, and then the raising of the roof, we may have enough money left over to actually get that done within this pricing that we have. And if you want us to go a few $1,000s over in order to make that happen, you just need to give us some guidance, and we can find building maintenance from some other departments and use their money.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as far as that additional to get some of the noise and vibration concerns when we used to have projectors, that would just sit there.
Yes, we took the projectors off the ceiling because, and of course, then what do? We took the projectors down and we added in cameras, and we have more cameras coming, so who knows?
So I'm all for finding a way to make sure that since we're here and we're doing all of this now.
Yes, we get one chance to get it done.
But yeah, at one point you talked about, we go from the roof up to the parapet, we're going on the parapet cap. And then there's a long drop, and I apologize, I haven't been back there to really pay attention, but we're not taking this long thing that's visible from the pumpkin patch, right?
No, so the exterior, when you're outside, when you're walking the sidewalk, you're not gonna be able to see anything besides the metal coping on top.
Okay.
But when you get on the roof, there's still that portion. That's all gonna be seen through the roof in one roof system, because the walls are having issues and the roof aren't, so we gotta make sure we address them.
Is this heat welded or is it take chemical?
So it's gonna be a mix of mechanically fastened and then heat welded on the seams.
Okay.
So the odor will not be an issue on this project.
And it's white in color?
Yeah.
That's all for now, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Well, you're speaking in terms of some. Very good. Yes, Ms. Bulman.
I just have 3 questions that the residents asked. So was the roof on this building ever part of like an old comprehensive plan?
And the comprehensive plan, no, we typically don't put building maintenance. We might construct a whole new building under a comprehensive plan, but not a building maintenance issue.
Okay, so I guess my other question, which isn't directly this, but like, do we know the status of the other roofs? Because it felt like this was kind of sprung on us a little bit. So like, do we have this status of that, and then we just budget for it? Because I feel like we didn't really learn about this until budget season hit, and then it was like, hey, we need $55,000.
Right, because we had issues, and then we decided, well, we probably better go out and figure out how just bad the issues are. Really, the issue that I see all the time is the one in the media room, because it's an add-on, and there's this little gap in there. And they have the most expensive equipment in the city, and that's where all the water's ending up. It's also the lowest point on the roof. And so we had gone out and looked at it. It did take us a while to get the bids and everything back, so I apologize for that. But I know for you, it probably felt like you sprung on it, but we've been talking about it for a long time. I apologize.
And I have one more question. Since we're replacing the roof, did we look for possible grants for maybe doing like solar on the roof? Or would that even be, like, I don't know if there was matching grants or something that, or no. It wasn't my question, someone said, but I just thought to know.
My personal opinion, I'm not a fan of solar on the roof.
Okay. I'm in the same boat as you.
Fire hazard, and every time that we need to get up there, there's the potential for a panel to be broken, and yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
Okay.
Especially in Texas, I found when we're doing solar, especially with being tax exempt, there's not as many benefits where you guys are making money and with taxes, you could obviously, it's sometimes a benefit, especially with the electricity rates that we're fortunate to have in Texas. And I always find it's a good solution. And like she said, I mean, there's times it works, and when it doesn't, it is always a chance that it could cause issues with ponding water on the roof or punctures. But for this case, probably not the best.
I will add, and this may not be a well-known fact, but we actually do have solar panels. We have shares in a solar farm that we use to offset our electric bill with CPS energy. So they're not on the building, they're out in the farm down on 1604.
Interesting.
And that's gone.
Much better option. For some people.
Okay, Mr. Najarian.
Yes, this might sound like a funny question, but I'm serious about it. With the roof, I heard there's gonna be some moving of like air ducts, is for air
No.
conditioning?
Not the ducts, the unit itself.
Okay,
So National Roofing Contractor Association, NRCA, they say they recommend the minimum flashing heights, which is the vertical part of the roof on the curves. So the roof's flat, then the curves. But those, they want to be 8 inches minimum, just in case if you get a ton of water sitting on the roof, they don't want that to come in and flood that curb. In the odd case of snow, which is obviously rare, but if that happens, that's why they want that, so.
so this project has nothing to do with moving of ducts if you're,
No.
which is sad. And the only reason I ask this, and I am serious about it, is because the problem that we have sometime of odors that come out of the evidence room that end up in the conference room, and when we have people come into the city, they go into our conference room and they just wonder if we're having a big party back there, I'm thinking, so.
Freeze-dried bags has helped a lot with that. It's cut down on some of the odor that we get from the evidence.
And I have not smelled that way.
That has helped. And we still have not taken off our list at some point to put that room on its own air conditioning unit, much like we did with the server room, right? It's one of the hottest rooms we have in there, and it sits in there with an air conditioning unit just for that little room, and it's a room one, it's not a ceiling one. But we've not taken that off the table for future.
Thank you.
Okay, what we need from you all is the recommended is that the low bid contract, LBK Roofing, and the amount of $521,000, so that would have to be in the
The
motion.
base bid plus the other
Plus the additional.
2,100 per square feet and 2,500 per HVAC.
So basically, under staff recommendation, I need that in the motion so that we can make it clear to staff.
And adding in noise attenuation.
Mr. Mayor, I motion we approve all of this
So the staff recommendation.
stuff. Is that the bottom? No? Where's it at?
It's right there at the top.
It's at the top. We approve we award the base low bid contract to LBK Roofing in the amount of $521,865 for a 30-year key full roof replacement, and approve a unit price of $2,100 per 100 square feet for damaged decking, and the unit price of $2,500 per HVAC system to raise the units and increase the curb flashing heights to 8-inch minimum, plus an additional amount for sound attenuation
In the council chambers.
in the council chambers.
Okay.
Second, Mr.
We
Mayor.
have a motion. Second by Councilmember Buck. Discussion further, anybody? All right, please call for the vote then.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
That motion passes, and it's something we've needed for quite a long time. All right, move to tab number 8, discuss and to consider Resolution 962, 2023, resolution approving, adopting, and ratifying the Aviation District Master Plan by the City Council of the City of Universal City, establishing the Aviation District redevelopment and revitalization guidelines, and setting an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the Aviation District Master Plan, which obviously we talk a lot about at times. And so this is not a revision to the zoning ordinance, so it's not a special district at this point. It is just formally adopting the guidelines, and so that we are well within our rights to send them out to a developer and say, look, here's the vision that the council and the councils have had, and please consider it while you're working on your projects in the aviation district. It may be at some time, and I'm gonna look at Michael, maybe when we come back and we do the full comprehensive plan, which includes rezoning, that we take it and we formally adopt it within the portions of it at that time. That's the future option you have. Questions?
Okay, any specific questions? Yes, Mr. Vaughan.
I guess you said that it wasn't rezoned, because I thought some of that down there was rezoned, as far as.
Not through the
light
aviation
industrial.
district master plan.
So that was separately rezoned, I guess.
In 2007, when we did the rezone, a lot of that area was rezoned then. We've had some zoning amendments at that point And that's done by ordinance. This is a resolution just ratifying the existence of the aviation district.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve Resolution 962-2023 that formally adopts and ratifies the Aviation District Master Plan, sir.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Buck, second by Councilmember Najarian. Discussion, Ms. Bulman?
I got a lot of questions. Okay, so the new comprehensive plan that we're doing next year is likely going to include another plan for aviation, or you're just, so what is that gonna look like? So that's my question. So next year, what is that comprehensive plan gonna look like for aviation? Is it gonna be like a new thing? Is it just we're gonna adapt the old one that we have and put it in the new comprehensive plan? You tell me, like, what are you thinking?
So when we go through the comprehensive plan update, we can incorporate the aviation district plan, a master plan into that as part of the background data, the baseline data. And then if you see fit to amend any of the aviation district master plan elements at that time based on current conditions, market conditions, then you certainly can. But it'll be baseline data that is part of that larger plan for the town.
Okay, so you already answered, we haven't already rezoned anything to fit the aviation master plan.
Correct.
Okay. And then, so if this is a guideline, but we might tweak it a little bit for next year, that's what you were saying. So you were saying that we could possibly postpone this until we...
No, I'm saying instead of just being a guideline that you've ratified, right? You've
Okay.
acknowledged its existence and that it's a plan that you can see moving forward. If you absolutely want to make it into a zoning district, means that you must follow these rules that we have in the aviation district. Your setback must be this, your sidewalk must be 6 feet wide instead of 4 feet wide. That can be done during the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so I'm not 100% understanding what changes from what it is now, which it's 2020 or 2023 now. What's the point of doing this? I know Mr. Goolsby brought it up, but I would like to know, like, what's the point? If we've already been just following it for the last 3 years, what's the point of making it, what's the point of ratifying it?
So this gives us justification when we're dealing with developers and builders that are working in that part of town to ask them to request that they follow the vision that was set by City Council. It's a stronger justification that staff has when pushing forward that vision.
And people in general keep saying, why do we keep talking about the aviation district? Nobody's even approved or ratified or adopted the aviation district. That's why it initially came up. Because we've been presenting it to people and saying, look, we've done this study. Now we're saying, look, we've done this study. The council has ratified it by liking the guidance in it, and it's a guide now, but we're there when they work on their comprehensive plan, it will probably become part of an official zoning district. It's that, ease your way into it.
Okay, so then, I just gotta apologize. I met with you and I met with Mr. Casada and we went over the aviation together and you guys tried to sell me on it and I just can't do it. So I don't understand, like, asking the taxpayers to invest in the aviation plan without giving two basic answers to basic questions, which is how much is this gonna cost the taxpayers and how long of a return for their money. So I guess that's where I land on it. If we can't tell everyone this project is gonna cost us this X dollar amount, I don't feel comfortable making people pay for this with a no end date and with a no, the ballpark of this project is gonna be $500 million, it's gonna be $3 million, $6 million, because everything is, I was told, it's guidelines, it's flexible, it's movable. I can't get behind something that isn't a clear and concise business plan if the city wants to be in the business of being a business.
Okay, so development standards are not a business plan, right? They're not. One is, I'm going to go out and paint a picture of what I'd like it to be. And the other one is, oh, I just painted that. It's worth $45,000. Those are two completely different things. Because you have to understand, when you have guidelines and a vision, it's not just the city investing in it, it's private developers investing in it as well. So it's not necessarily what's it going to cost the city. but what will it bring from outside the city for people to invest in this area and to know that we're going to make a concerted effort to protect their investment when they buy it and they make changes. And this guideline protects their investment as well. And that's not our money, and you can't put a dollar value on that. So that's like me saying, you did the painting, and I'm saying, well, you did the painting, it's only worth $200, but my painting's worth $45,000. So one's a picture and one's a dollar and cents. This is the picture.
Yeah, I'm black and white, I guess, so I have to have dollars and numbers attached to everything, and without that, I just don't feel comfortable, but that's all
I don't think that,
So can I just add that developers like to understand what the process is going to be. They like to have a clear understanding because obviously they're investing their money, so they're investors' money. And so by having the city backing a clear set of policies as to what they are going to allow to be redeveloped in that area really does help not only the city, but those developers coming in who are going to spend money to redevelop that area. And that's really what it does. It provides that vision, but it just doesn't, it's not just a vision, it's a concrete adopted set of policy guidelines that they know city council, and they have to go through a special process of a specific use or PUD, that council has already considered that for that area, and they're more than likely going to approve it. So it helps us bring in investors and developers into that area to meet that vision.
Okay, Mr. Najarian.
Thank you. Back me up or tell me where I'm wrong. This is the way I've always presented when talking about the future of the aviation district and the master plan. To me, very simply, hopefully this will explain a couple things. The aviation district is a master plan. It is a vision of the future for the aviation district. So to me, when somebody says, well, in that future plan, you have like a little theater, an outdoor theater over here. Well, that could change. So what I explain to people is the aviation district, the master plan, to me, is written in El Marco, puts it in El Marco permanent ink. Everything in the middle of that is interchangeable and is on dry erase. So we can set up the plan. Once we have this down solid and adopt this plan, that gives future investors knowing that's what we're going to do. And we're asking for their input and letting them know that they're free to give us input and put these pieces in place, which again is an investment from an outside investments from other companies into our city, making our city better and following it with the vision. And that vision with the pieces in the middle can change with what goes there in certain places that we have can change, and the pieces can be moved around, but the vision remains the same.
Right, so we established the vision as you've done with the master plan, but it takes into account market conditions and how those do change and availability of different properties. And so again, it can't be set in stone as to the exact, like this is going to be built here at this time, it's going to cost this amount, because that's just not realistic. But it provides that framework for us to move down the track and meet that vision.
And the understanding being that this isn't the city that's providing all this money for the making and completion of the aviation district. This is investors that are bringing money into this city to invest in. They're catching on to our vision and saying, that's a great vision, we want to be a part of it.
Yeah, by and large, that is accurate, but the city does have an investment to make with regard to streetscaping, infrastructure,
Yes.
of that nature, so that plays into it as well.
public
Well,
improvements.
and that's important. We're putting money in there, but we can't assign, since it's a vision and we're going to be having investors, we can't come up with a dollar figure on how much everything is going to cost right now. But it moves us towards the future, and it cements the fact that this is what we're going to do with this area. Which, like you said, investors, if you're saying, yeah, we think we might want to do this, then they're going to say, yeah, we think we might be interested, but probably until you solidify that, we're not going to put our money into it. When you solidify it, that's when the money comes, correct?
Right.
Mr. Mayor, that's all.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just kind of piggyback, I explained it's like a pot of stew. I get meat, potatoes, carrots, onions, all those pieces go in to make this thing work. I can't promise you how many pieces of meat I'm gonna get and all that stuff. But the city is buying properties because we're trying to make areas a little bit more interesting to developers, because we're trying to accumulate these little properties, these little ones that their developers aren't going to be terribly interested in, and onesies and twosies. They want to take a big block, they want to take a big chunk. So that's what we're working for. Then the other side of it is that kind of what Councilmember Najarian just said was the developers really like to see clear and defined guidelines, and they like to see the backing for council to back this as a plan. It's not that the city is out there developing. We're not going to go build these retail strips and put in and ask these different businesses to come in. We're making it enticing for developers by one, giving them bigger chunks, and then by two, being supportive by ratifying this and saying, yes, this is our vision for the future. They like to see that. The guys that are putting their money on the table really like to see that. It gives them more confidence in us. And the other pieces we've been doing is adding apartments, we've been adding rooftops, we've been adding more financial capabilities to the city. So all those pieces are really starting to come into play. But if we turn around and we're like, meh, that doesn't give all the warm fuzzies that we're really pushing for to try to get that aviation district really becomes. So that's why we push for ratification of the master plan. And then in the future to come up with some type of zoning situation. But just small steps getting us there, and we're really close to it. So that's why I asked for this to be ratified.
Okay, Mr. Fitzpatrick.
I kind of feel like we've been operating with this as a vision, and the ratification is important because we're actually saying we as a group support this idea. We want this to happen. We've spent money, to Councilmembers Goolsby's point, on buying property, and all of that comes before us to make future purchases. So I feel like this is a great idea, ratifies it, says we're willing to say, yes, this is our vision. We really are excited about this happening, and we support businesses that come in and want to help us get us there.
Mr. Vaughan.
I get your passion, and I don't have a problem with the vision per se. I just have a real hard time with what it says to the people that are there right now. It's kind of like, we don't want you, we want you out of Universal City, you're ugly, and we've rezoned you now, so now your business can't be sold in the current location. It's really, I think, a hardship on them, and I have a hard time with that. And then I feel like once we approve something like this, it lights more fuel on the fire for the EDC to continue to issue bonds and buy more properties, and that's not something that I think we should be doing. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope this becomes a great, big, shining beacon for the city. I just think it's going to be very difficult for that to materialize with the amount of money that we're going to end up putting into it. I also think the EDC sales tax is a 4B sales tax, which can do a lot to help our infrastructure. And if we had solid infrastructure and we had a plan for keeping our infrastructure up, and we had a tax rate that was commensurate with our neighborhoods, then I think this is something we might be considering, but we're far from there. I think we should just be changing our priorities a little bit. So I just want to explain why I'm not in favor of this one. Thank you.
Has everybody had a chance to comment on this particular item? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. So if there's no other discussion, we do have a motion and a second, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's call for the vote then, please.
Councilmember Buck?
Aye.
Councilmember Najarian?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman?
No.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick? Aye. Councilmember Vaughan?
No.
Okay, that motion passes 4-2. All right, tab I is our next item. Discuss and to consider resolution 963. It's the Daylily Beauty Bar resolution authorizing the project, which will facilitate the promotion and development of new or expanded commercial development, and which was approved by the Board of Directors of the Universal City Economic Development Corporation on October 12, 2023, and this is also providing an effective date for this. So,
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we sent the agenda packet out on Thursday morning to give you a little extra time, and the EDC met that same night. So we have put that information together for you, and Kristen is going to go through tab I and J.
right.
Yeah, so Brooke Flanders, she is the owner of Daylily Beauty Bar, submitted an application for the EDC Storefront Improvement Program. She's opening her very first storefront. It is a lash extension salon. She has been a lifetime Universal City resident and has lots of connections and ties to the history of Universal City, so that was interesting to hear at the meeting. She did ask for assistance with signage for her new business. She's put together a project that consists of a 36-inch channel letter sign for the storefront, 2 pylon faces for both pole signs, and then some vinyl door signage as well. The total estimated cost of the project is $6,408.40. And the EDC approved unanimously to reimburse $3,204.20, provided that she spends that estimated project cost amount and doesn't hire any undocumented workers.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Vaughan, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion further, anyone? Call for that vote, please.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Buck.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
And Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
That motion passes. We'll move on now to tab number J, discuss and to consider resolution 964, Hillside Primary Care, a resolution authorizing a project which will facilitate the promotion and development of new or expanded commercial development, and which was approved by the Board of Directors of University Economic Development Corporation, October 12th, 2023, and this will be providing an effective date. So, Kristen, you want to explain this one?
Yes, sir, thank you. It is another storefront improvement application for Dr. Patel. He owns Hillside Primary Care. They recently reopened back in Universal City in June. Prior to that, he had opened originally here about 5 years ago. He still has offices in Live Oak and San Antonio and Schertz, and tied to New Braunfels office as well. The building that he's been has not been updated on the exterior. He is wanting to make a facade improvement for that building, removing the brick, putting a limestone veneer on the front, and then removing the shingles from the roof and making it a metal roof, and then adding lighting where his roof overhangs onto the sidewalk. In addition to that scope, he didn't include it in the EDC project because the EDC doesn't fund parking lots, but he is going to resurface his parking lot, knock down the canopy on the back side, and extend the parking lot in the back so the circulation is easier out of his lot. Just so you're aware, he's spending that money as well. The total cost of the EDC scope, $77,550.30, and the EDC voted unanimously to reimburse $31,020.12.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Councilmember Najarian,
Second.
second Councilmember Buck. Discussion. Mr. Buck?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Miller, I want to be clear. He opened up here in 2005,
No, 5 years ago, so
I'm sorry, 5 years ago.
2018.
and then he moved away, like he wasn't
He
opening?
He closed his location and rented that facility out to another medical group. Was not pleased with that medical group, reopened his own location back here in June.
Okay, so it's been a medical facility. It's not a new acquisition by him. It wasn't closed.
It wasn't a Hillside Primary Care, I forgot the name of the group, but it was like a conglomerate of other medical care groups. And they closed down, he reopened as Hillside Primary Care.
I understand now. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
James, turn.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. When he left, that facility was kind of run down. He opened up on top of Wine, and now he's got, he's already broke ground, or I believe breaking ground on a bigger facility there. He's over at 281, and this office asked for his help to come back, and he was very happy to come back to where he had started. So, and love the fact that he's putting back big investment to not only come back here, but to make that facility a top-notch facility for the residents of Universal City. So.
And the location of this facility in relation to the new apartment complex that's ever coming up on Babaker Road, it'll just be nice to have a fresh facade with all those new developments coming on.
Good, Mr. Patrick.
I was going to say, he's also, at the ribbon cutting, I would toured the inside of the facility, and he has also put money in refreshing that. And I love the idea that we're going to change the look up and down Pat Booker, like just to have a fresh look. There hasn't been a lot of changes there, and that really excites me that somebody's willing to put some money into changing the facade of the building.
I'm really excited to have you back. It's a great practice, doing very well. Okay, do we have a motion and I do have a second? Any other discussion, anyone? All right, call for that vote then, please.
Councilmember Najarian.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughan.
Aye.
Our motion passes. That concludes our business for this evening, so I'll turn it over now to our city manager for her comments.
Yeah, Mr. Vaughan had asked if we would just give an update on the sewer study that we're doing, so Randy's going to spend 2 minutes.
Yeah, no change from the last time I recorded. It's, you got HDR Consulting is still have their staff reviewing the video. They had some formatting issues that they got from the contractor that they had to get the contractor to get it into the right formatting. So there's been a lot of back and forth between my consultant and the contractor. So anticipation, they're hoping to have it to me sometime in December.
Can we ask questions about that, Mr. Mayor?
No, not in this. We can do it offline, but we can't do
Happy
it
to
during
chat.
this. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that was just a little presentation.
Very well.
Okay, but you can talk to Randy certainly afterwards. Matt, anything else?
In case you haven't noticed, Coffee with the Community is every Thursday in October. Great event last week. I think we had about 30 or 40 people show up. I got 2 brand new residents to University City. That was nice. We are having a trunk or treat at the Patch. If you have little ones, that's October 21st. And then apparently y'all are having a Halloween costume, or what is it? A skeleton party or something. So if you have any questions on this, you can certainly get with whoever came up with this brainchild. Oh, there it is. It's Kristen. Thank you. That's all I have.
We'll start with you this evening, Mr. Bach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any comments for the evening.
Okay.
Monday, October 30th for the skeleton thing, and the offices are going to be decorated.
Yeah, we are doing the hallway.
hallway.
The departments are doing the internal hallway and inviting families with their children to come in and to walk the halls and see our decorations, meet some of the staff in their costumes, and just get a chance to come in and find out that we're just regular people too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So a lot of people have asked, like, what the holdup is on the $30 million street bond. I think I know the answer to that, but do we know like when that's coming back up? Because I know like we did the presentation and we talked about it, but we haven't released any of that money. So do we know? I know we keep pushing things.
We haven't
So
received all of that money yet either, by the way. That'll be happening a little bit later this month.
okay.
As you know, we are talking about multiple projects within the city and how those are going to be handled. We are meeting on one of those tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have a more definitive answer on some costs on that. I have it slated for November to come back at that point with either an executive session with City Council or to bring back the packages to you so that you can make a selection.
Okay. And then my other comment is just, yeah, the Bulman family will be passing out candy for the 5th year in a row at the pumpkin patch on Saturday, and we're super excited to see everyone's kiddos again. So I hope it's another wonderful, amazing turnout. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just got back, was able to spend some time with our city manager at Texas Municipal League this year, which happened to be a fantastic conference. I just get something out of it every year. This year was pretty special as far as, I'll just break this down a little bit. We did miss National Night Out, which I was sad to miss because I do enjoy going to that every year. And I did miss going out there with my good friend and ex-council member, Mr. Maxwell. You were missed over at TML, and a lot of people asked about you, by the way. With the Texas Municipal League Conference, there's just going to a lot of classes, just going over a few that we went to, new challenges posed by social media for the public sector, maximizing capital development for economic growth, strategies and best practices, There was a refreshment break somewhere in there. The integration of innovation into public works maintenance, found out that your job is pretty hard, sir, at times. And just a lot of other classes that we went over for the 3 days. Some fantastic speakers. This one, Peter, I'm going to say it wrong, Kagiyama. This gentleman has put out a book which I have started to go through and very excited about it. It's called For the Love of Cities. And basically what it broke down to is, especially when you have a big volunteer unit like we have here in Universal City, things you can do that some do cost money, some don't cost that money, to get the public and the citizens involved in the infrastructure of the city, of getting together to do things that give you pride in your city, and looking to a vision of the future of. That has a lot to do with, I saw with the aviation district. The only thing that's constant is change. Is it going to be good change? Is it going to be bad change? Is there going to be no change? Well, there's not going to be no change. It's going to be good or bad. It's how you direct that and how you get your citizens involved to get on board with their vision and our vision of the future for the city, to give them pride, and not for just now, but the future of the city when some of us won't be here anymore, to see that this city goes on and keep it the crown on the hill that we believe it is, and I do especially. So that was very good, learned a lot, and that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Christine?
Two quick things. I was able to participate in National Night Out and drove around to some of the parties. I was really pleased to see the participation of the fire department and the police department and going around to different parties. I saw different groups at different ones, and so I think that's great. I know the residents were thrilled with them showing up, and so it really went a long way to kind of get out there and recognize that. And then the pumpkin patch is going great. We are really bringing in a tremendous amount of people from San Antonio, other sides of town. Outside of town, we've had people from Houston come in and say, I drove all this way to come to this patch. I've heard great things about it. We've had tremendous community participation. I know the coffee events are huge. I think it would be great if any of us have any free time on Thursdays to show up there and participate in the coffee. I was in California last time, so I couldn't, but I think it's great. I appreciate seeing everybody that's popped out there. I've seen the mayor and Ashton and Paul has helped with parking, so come out and have fun and enjoy the patch.
Thank you. Phil?
I had nothing until you reminded me that the patrol sergeant came to our national night out and he pretended like I wasn't a crazy person, so I appreciate it.
We'll pass that along.
He came to the National Night Out on my street because he's the only one on his street. So.
I know we're finna get invited.
Just a
Well, I
couple
was
things.
told the place to be was Ashton, so sorry for the rest of you.
Well, thank you, Ashton, for hosting it, and all of you that were participating in it. We all had a chance to visit 2 or 3 or 4 different places, and we did see our police and fire. It was really awesome to have that. So, just a couple items. This is a classic example of what happened at the Wine on the Vine the other night. This happens to be the creation of our city manager. So we'll make sure we leave this out here so when everybody comes by and sees what's going on with the costumes and decorations, this is Ms. Turner's specialty. We even glossed it up a little bit, so it looks even shinier than it could be. Yeah. So, anyway, Pumpkin Patch is doing exceptionally well. Last Friday, there was a tournament at our golf course, and there were 180 players. It was the biggest tournament. The Spa Glass is the sponsor of it. Their major headquarters is in Selma. I think you know that. On Corporate Drive there. Tremendous comments about the course. And if you were out there either Thursday or that Friday morning, you saw a whole bunch of deliveries of new carts because we didn't have anywhere near enough carts to handle 180 players. So they were all being picked up yesterday and sent back to the place where we were. But very, very great event. The only other thing is our first meeting in November, which we've already switched till Wednesday because of election night. And then we'll go back. Let's go to our formal attire of the shirt and tie. And ladies, you just, you decide what you're gonna wear, of course. But we'll go back to that, because it should be cool enough anyway. I know Mr. Goolsby would like to keep it short sleeves all year round, but, anyway, all right. Yeah, we have all kinds of opportunities with them. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It is now 8 minutes after 9. Thank you for sticking around, Mr. Maxwell and gentlemen on the video. This meeting is now adjourned.
I'm just saying, like, really nice on
It does, actually.
So, yeah, so, you know. You do, you can.
Yeah, you're like, you got a curtain.
Oh, yeah.